This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Let us explore the folly of wish repetition and then meditate like a Jedi. A good-hearted individual explained that for them, classic metta meditation feels fake. They then elaborated, explaining that as they were taught, metta meditation is merely the repetition of phrases. Yes, those phrases sound kind, sound loving, but they wondered if mere repetition could transform the brain. And like most questions when it comes to meditation, neuroscience has much to say. So what I like to do is tap button 9 and quick like a bunny, subject you to visual aids. Not everything that claims to have been written by the Buddha was written by the Buddha. For the superstitious and the rigid, this is heresy. For those who are flexible and laid back, this makes total sense. It's easy to attribute teachings to a person who never uttered them. So those who are rigid and those who are controlling love to actively focus and actively analyze. Now, the only parts of the brain that are wired to perform those functions would be the dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex. I'm having, I'm going, due to a medical situation, I'm going to have to cut this short. I'm having a migraine and it's obscuring my vision of the screen. I say this not to kvetch and complain, but just to let you know that you deserve long lessons. This is going to have to be a short one. The problem with overworking the prefrontal cortex is that the more we do that, the more likely we become to begin presenting with symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, which I think you would agree is the opposite of loving kindness. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, both facets of our spinal cord, whose fancy name altogether is the nexus of the autonomic nervous system. When we take a relaxing break from the exhausting habit of actively competing against our autonomic nervous system, as we have been conditioned to do so by society, and instead perform the subversive act of passively cooperating with the nexus of our autonomic nervous system, amazing things happen. The aggression and anxiety of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently, non-neurotically stimulated. Well, that's very good news. The question remains, well, that's great, but how do we do it? How does an everyday workaday Joe like myself subversively transcend my habit of actively competing against it. It's not enough to want to, I need to know exactly how to do it. Glad you asked. So before we go any further, I just want to remind you that the great irony is that when we practice mindfulness meditation in harmony with what we know of neuroscience, then we experience the highest form of love, which is the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of simply practicing mindfulness and meditation. Here's the irony. When we begin to allow neuroscience to, I'm going to jump back for a second. There are those who love power and prestige, and those who are laid back and loving. Those who love power and prestige are more concerned with acquisition of power and prestige than they are with the mastery of the Buddha's teachings. And consequently, when these people get into power, at best they don't know what they're doing, and at worst they deliberately alter their teachings to support their agenda, their elitist and controlling agenda. However, this is the cool thing. The more we allow a rudimentary understanding of neuroscience to inform our practice of the Buddha's teachings, the more the ancient writings are clarified, the more they make sense. Just because someone says a text was written by the Buddha doesn't mean the text was based on one of his lectures. The more we cooperate, the more we act on our rudimentary knowledge of neuroscience, the more it becomes abundantly clear what were the teachings that actually work and most likely come from the Buddha, and which were the teachings that really don't work and actually make us more cranky and more anxious. And so practice becomes the litmus test of scriptural authentication, which as a nerd I find so cool, so useful, so liberating. Let's get down to brass tacks. The autonomic nervous, so just as you and I have a right side and a left side to our body, and we need them both, our autonomic nervous system has two aspects that we see come to the fore when we explore mindfulness and then meditation. Let us begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired by evolution to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, whose fancy name is the nexus of our sympathetic nervous system. This sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings, including the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. And so, in a nutshell, mindfulness is simply watching the antics of mind. How do we practice it, though? Here's the rule of thumb. We The key to watching the antics of mind is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch each time we feel our chest swell with breath. That's it. Using the word watch isn't making our brain do anything. It's simply guiding our intention to passively cooperate with the autonomic nervous system that has always been in place. The question remains, however, what are we to do with that which we have noticed during our previous inhalation? And the answer is simple: we're going to meditate. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access two separate parts of our spinal cord, which we could think of as both the attic and the basement. When these two parts working as a team have a fancy name, and that would be the nexus of our parasympathetic nervous system. It has evolved to support the physical act of relaxing. It helps us to relax to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite outer sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand. So we see the cryptic terms emptiness and no self serve simply as metaphors to describe the visceral experience latent within each exhalation. In a nutshell, meditation is simply relaxing into the non-graspable aspect of mind. Here's the rule of thumb. The easiest way, the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. The more we do this, one of the great ironies of enlightenment is that the Buddha taught in his discourse on the four bases of mindfulness that one could master his path in as little as 7 days. Enlightenment is simply getting so good at the Buddha's Eightfold Path, getting so good at the Buddha's 8 tools that we practice them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. So here's the delicious irony. Simply by watching and resting every 12 hours or so, we cannot help but automatically practice greater kindness of intention, communication, conduct, and commerce, which are in perfect alignment with the four bases of mindfulness: the mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. And so the highest love, just like the late Tulku Thondup insisted, the highest love is not a contrivance. It's not brought about by superstition. It's simply brought about by efficient cooperation with our own autonomic nervous system. Welcome to the lazy bastard path of quick enlightenment, where the easiest practice is the most efficient one. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. 4. Meditate like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you.